The wind howled across the Montana plains, carrying the scent of hay and something wilder, something untamed. I stood frozen at the edge of the ranch, my boots sinking into the dusty earth, heart pounding like it was trying to break free. I'd come to escape the city, but what I found here would unravel me in ways I never saw coming. My name is Ethan Carter, a 27-year-old graphic designer from Seattle, chasing a break from the grind of deadlines and concrete. My old college buddy, Luke Hammond, had invited me to his family's sprawling ranch in Montana, a place he described as God's country, with a side of whiskey and hard work. I'd laughed, picturing myself playing cowboy for a week, maybe riding a horse or two. But as my rental car rolled up the gravel drive, the sheer vastness of the Hammond ranch hit me like a punch. Acres of rolling fields stretched out, framed by jagged mountains under a sky so big it felt like it could swallow you whole. Luke greeted me with a bear hug, his sun-bleached hair and easy grin unchanged since our frat house days. "Welcome to nowhere, city boy," he teased, tossing my duffel into the back of his truck. The first day was a blur of new sights, the creak of barn doors, the lowing of cattle, the rhythm of life so different from my urban pulse. Luke's parents, Tom and Ellen, were warm but weathered, their faces etched with years of labor and love for this land. They welcomed me like family, serving up plates of steak and stories of their youth. But it was Luke's older brother, Caleb, who caught me off guard. He strode into the dining room that first evening, late from fixing a fence, his flannel shirt clinging to his broad shoulders, dust streaked across his jaw. His eyes, piercing blue like the sky before a storm, met mine for a fleeting second, and something in my chest tightened. He nodded, barely speaking, but that glance felt like a spark in dry grass. Caleb was 30, a man of few words, with a presence that filled the room. Unlike Luke's open warmth, Caleb carried a quiet intensity, like he was holding something back, something heavy. I caught myself watching him over dinner, the way his hands moved with purpose, the way his lips twitched when Luke teased him about his lone wolf ways. I told myself it was just curiosity, city kid fascinated by the rugged rancher. But that night, as I lay in the guest room, the memory of his gaze kept me awake, stirring something I hadn't felt in years. The next morning, Luke dragged me out to help with chores. "You're not here to sip coffee and sketch," he said, handing me a pair of work gloves. We spent the day hauling hay bales and checking fences, my muscles screaming by noon. Caleb joined us, working alongside without much talk, but every now and then, I'd catch him looking my way. Once, when I stumbled under the weight of a bale, his hand shot out, steadying me. His grip was firm, calloused, and lingered just a second too long. "Careful, city," he muttered, his voice low, sending a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with the chilly air. That evening, after a dinner of Ellen's homemade chili, Luke suggested a bonfire. We gathered under the stars, the fire crackling as the night grew crisp. Luke strummed the guitar, belting out off-key country tunes, while Tom and Ellen shared a blanket, laughing like newlyweds. Caleb sat across from me, his face half lit by the flames, shadows dancing over his sharp features. I tried to focus on Luke's singing, but my eyes kept drifting to Caleb, to the way he stared into the fire like it held secrets. When he caught me looking, he didn't look away. Instead, he held my gaze, and for a moment, the world shrank to just us, the fire's heat mirroring the one building in my chest. "Ethan, you're quiet tonight," Luke said, snapping me out of it. "City life got you spooked by all this open space." I forced a laugh. "Just taking it all in, man. It's different." Caleb's lips quirked, almost a smile, and he took a swig of his beer. "Different's one way to put it," he said, his voice carrying a weight I couldn't quite place. I wanted to ask what he meant, but the moment passed, and Luke launched into another song. As the fire died down, the family drifted inside, leaving just me and Caleb. The silence between us was heavy, charged, like the air before a thunderstorm. I should have gone to bed, should have walked away, but my feet stayed rooted. Caleb tossed a stick into the embers, sparks flying up into the night. "You're not what I expected," he said suddenly, his voice soft but deliberate. I swallowed, my throat dry. "What did you expect?" He looked at me, then really looked, his eyes searching mine like he was trying to see through me. "Someone softer, someone who'd break out here." He paused, then added, "You don't seem like you break easy." My heart thudded. "I've had practice holding it together," I said, surprising myself with the honesty. I'd spent years building walls, keeping people at arm's length after a messy breakup in college. Love, or whatever passed for it, hadn't been on my radar. But Caleb's words, his presence, were chipping away at those walls, and I wasn't sure I wanted to stop it. He stood, brushing dirt from his jeans, and stepped closer. The space between us felt alive, electric. "Night's cold," he said, his breath visible in the air. "You should head in." But he didn't move, and neither did I. His hand brushed mine as he turned, a fleeting touch that sent heat racing through me. Then he was gone, disappearing into the dark, leaving me breathless and shaken, staring at the dying fire. The next day, the ranch woke with the sun, but I woke with Caleb's touch burned into my memory. I couldn't shake it. The way his hand had grazed mine, the way his eyes seemed to see straight through to the parts of me I kept hidden. I told myself to focus, to enjoy this week with Luke, but every corner of the ranch seemed to hold Caleb's shadow. Luke had plans for us to ride out to the far pastures, check on the cattle, and make a man out of me, as he put it. We saddled up horses, mine a gentle mare named Daisy who sensed my inexperience and took pity. Caleb joined us again, riding a black stallion with a grace that made my clumsy attempts look comical. "Keep your heels down, Ethan," he called over his shoulder, his tone teasing but not unkind. I caught a glint of amusement in his eyes, and it stirred something reckless in me. The ride was long, the landscape stretching endlessly under a sky that felt too big to comprehend. Luke chattered about ranch life, about his plans to modernize the place, but my attention kept drifting to Caleb. He rode ahead, his silhouette cutting a sharp line against the horizon, every movement deliberate, like he was part of the land itself. At one point, we stopped by a creek to let the horses drink. Luke wandered off to check a fence, leaving me and Caleb alone again. I knelt by the water, splashing my face when I felt him behind me. "You're not half bad at this," he said, crouching beside me. His knee brushed mine, and my breath caught. "For a city boy," I laughed, trying to play it cool. "High praise from the cowboy king." He smirked, dipping his hand in the creek and flicking water at me. The cold droplets hit my skin, and I yelped, splashing him back. For a moment, we were just two guys messing around, laughing like kids, the tension easing into something lighter. But then his hand caught my wrist, stopping me mid-splash, and the air shifted. His grip was gentle but firm, his thumb resting against my pulse. "You're trouble," he said, his voice low, almost a growl. "You know that." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. His eyes held mine, and I saw it. The same pull I felt, mirrored back. But before I could say anything, Luke's voice rang out, calling us back. Caleb let go, standing quickly, and the moment shattered. That night, I couldn't sleep. The guest room was too quiet, the ranch too still. I slipped outside, drawn to the barn where I'd seen Caleb disappear earlier. The moon hung low, casting silver light over the hay-strewn floor. I found him there, brushing down his horse, his movements slow and methodical. He didn't look surprised to see me. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, not turning around. "Something like that," I said, stepping closer. The air was thick with the scent of hay and leather, and my heart was racing. "You?" He set the brush down, finally facing me. "Some things keep you up at night." His voice was heavy, layered with meaning I couldn't fully grasp. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the stubble on his jaw, the faint scar above his eyebrow. "You shouldn't be here, Ethan." "Why not?" The words came out before I could stop them, defiant, raw. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached out, his fingers brushing my jaw, tracing the line of it with a tenderness that stole my breath. "Because you make me want things I shouldn't," he whispered. Then his lips were on mine, tentative at first, then fierce, like he'd been holding back for years. The kiss was all heat and need, his hands gripping my shoulders, pulling me closer. I kissed him back, my hands fisting in his shirt, the world falling away until it was just us, just this. He pulled back suddenly, his breathing ragged. "This can't happen," he said, stepping away, his face a mix of longing and regret. "Not here. Not like this." "Caleb," I started, but he shook his head, turning back to the horse. "Go back to bed, Ethan," he said, his voice rough. "Please." I stumbled back to the house, my mind spinning, my lips still burning from his kiss. I didn't know what this was, what it meant, but I knew one thing. I wasn't leaving this ranch the same man I'd been when I arrived. The days that followed were a tightrope walk of stolen glances and unspoken words. Caleb avoided me, throwing himself into work with a ferocity that seemed almost desperate. I tried to keep up with Luke, to lose myself in the rhythm of ranch life, but every task, every moment, was haunted by that kiss. It was reckless, dangerous, and yet I couldn't stop wanting more. Luke noticed something was off. "You okay, man?" he asked one afternoon as we repaired a gate. "You've been quiet. Ranch life too much for you." I forced a smile, just adjusting. "It's a lot." He clapped my shoulder, oblivious to the storm inside me. "You'll get the hang of it." "Caleb's been weird too. Must be something in the water." My stomach twisted at the mention of Caleb. I wanted to ask Luke about him, about the man who seemed to carry the weight of the world in his silence, but I didn't dare. Instead, I threw myself into the work, hoping physical exhaustion would dull the ache in my chest. But the ranch had other plans. One evening, a storm rolled in, dark clouds swallowing the stars. Luke and I were in the barn when Caleb burst in, soaked to the bone, his face grim. "Calf stuck out in the north field," he said. "Fence broke. We need to move." The three of us rode out into the rain, the wind whipping at our faces. Lightning cracked the sky, illuminating Caleb's determined expression. We found the calf tangled in wire, shivering and scared. Caleb worked quickly, his hands steady despite the chaos, cutting the wire and freeing the animal. I held the flashlight, my heart pounding as I watched him, his strength and focus cutting through the storm like a beacon. When the calf was safe, we rode back, drenched and exhausted. Luke headed to the house, but Caleb lingered in the barn, shaking water from his hat. I stayed, unable to walk away. "You're good at this," I said, my voice barely audible over the rain. He looked at me, his eyes dark with something I couldn't name. "I've had to be," he said. "This place doesn't forgive mistakes." I stepped closer, reckless again. "What about us? Was that a mistake?" His jaw tightened, and for a moment I thought he'd walk away. But then he grabbed me, pulling me into the shadows of the barn, his lips crashing into mine. This kiss was different, desperate, hungry, like he was fighting himself as much as he was kissing me. My hands found his face, his stubble rough under my fingers, and I poured everything into that moment, every fear, every hope. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine, his breath shaky. "You don't know what you're asking for," he said. "This place, these people, they don't understand." "Then make them," I said, my voice fierce. "Or don't. But don't push me away." He looked at me, his eyes raw with conflict. "I've spent my life hiding, Ethan. Out here, you don't get to be this." He gestured between us, his voice breaking. "I don't know how to do this." "Then we figure it out," I said, my heart racing. "Together." He didn't answer, but his hand lingered on my arm, a silent promise. The storm raged outside, but in that moment, we were the only calm in the chaos. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the ranch glistening under a tentative sun. But the tension between Caleb and me only grew, a fragile thread stretched tight. We moved through the days like dancers avoiding a misstep, our interactions limited to brief glances and careful words. Luke remained blissfully unaware, his chatter a constant backdrop to the unspoken drama unfolding. One afternoon, while Luke was in town picking up supplies, I found Caleb in the tack room, organizing gear with a focus that bordered on obsession. I hesitated, then stepped inside. "We need to talk," I said, closing the door behind me. He didn't look up. "Nothing to say, Ethan." "Bullshit," I snapped, surprising myself. "You kissed me. Twice. You don't get to act like it didn't happen." He froze, his hands stilling on a bridle. When he finally met my eyes, his expression was guarded. "What do you want from me? You're leaving in a few days. Back to your city life. He gestured vaguely. This doesn't fit there. And what about you?" I challenged. "You're just going to stay here, hiding who you are, pretending you don't feel this?" His face darkened. "You don't get it. This isn't Seattle. Out here, people talk. They judge. My family," he stopped, his voice cracking. "They're good people, but they wouldn't understand." I stepped closer, my voice softening. "Then let me help you. Let me be there." He laughed, a bitter sound. "You think it's that easy? You think you could just waltz in, turn my world upside down, and make it all okay?" "I'm not trying to fix you," I said. "I'm trying to be with you." For a moment, he looked like he might break, like the walls he'd built were crumbling. But then he shook his head, stepping back. "You should go, Ethan, before this gets messy, eh?" I wanted to argue, to fight for him, but the look in his eyes stopped me. It wasn't just fear, it was shame, deep and raw. I left the tack room, my chest tight with frustration and something deeper, something that felt dangerously like love. That night, unable to sleep, I wandered to the porch. The stars were out, a blanket of light across the sky. I heard footsteps and turned to find Caleb, his face half hidden in the dark. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know how to do this right." "Then don't do it right," I said. "Just do it." He stepped closer, and this time there was no kiss, no touch, just a moment of raw honesty between us. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Scared of what this means, of what I'd lose." I reached for his hand, my fingers brushing his. "You don't have to lose anything. You just have to let me in." He didn't pull away, and for the first time, I saw hope in his eyes, fragile but real. My last day on the ranch dawned too soon, the weight of leaving pressing against my chest. I hadn't planned for this, for Caleb, for the way he'd cracked open my carefully guarded heart. But as I packed my bag, I knew I couldn't leave without a resolution, without knowing what we were. Luke drove me to the airport, his chatter filling the silence, but my mind was on Caleb. He'd been distant all morning, working in the fields, avoiding me. I wanted to believe it was fear, not rejection, but doubt gnawed at me. As we reached the airport, Luke hugged me, promising to visit Seattle soon. I nodded, my throat tight, and watched him drive away. I was about to check in when I heard my name. I turned, and there was Caleb, standing in the terminal, his hat in his hands, looking out of place among the travelers. My heart leapt. "What are you doing here?" I asked, stepping toward him. "I couldn't let you go," he said, his voice rough, not without saying something. We moved to a quiet corner, the bustle of the airport fading around us. "I've spent my whole life doing what's expected," he said, "staying quiet, staying safe. But you make me want to be brave." I reached for him, my hand finding his. "Then be brave. Come with me, or let me come back. We'll figure it out." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "My family, this ranch, it's my world. But you're part of it now. I don't know how, but I want to try." I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. "That's enough for me." He pulled me into a hug, his arms strong and sure. And for the first time, I felt like we were starting something real. We didn't have all the answers, how to bridge his world and mine, how to face the challenges of a love that didn't fit neatly into either of our lives. But we had a beginning, a promise to try. As I boarded my flight, I looked back at Caleb, standing tall in the terminal, his eyes locked on mine. The ranch had changed me, but his touch, his courage, had given me something more, a reason to believe in love, in second chances, in the beauty of being seen. And as the plane took off, I knew I'd be back, not just for the ranch, but for him.